Hi everyone, Barry here. Just received my Blackmagic Pyxis 12K camera. I need to set it up, so I thought I would just record this. You guys can hang out with me. We can talk a little bit more about this camera and what I'm looking for in a camera in 2026. So we will get this thing opened. I just literally got home with it. And then surrounding this is a couple of accessories that I received about a week ago. Some stuff from Mid49. So this is the Blackmagic Pyxis 12K. This is a camera that came out maybe about a year ago. Can't quite remember now. Probably a year ago. I think it was announced at NAB 2025, and NAB 2026 just passed, so about a year ago. So this kind of caught my attention when it first came out. I'm an owner-operator coming from a C300, Canon C300 Mark III, which is actually what I'm filming this on. So I've had this C300 for, I think I got it in late 2020. I think I received it. I upgraded from my Sony FS7 Mark I to the Canon C300 Mark III. It probably makes up, I would say the C300 probably makes up about 70%, 75% of my work, so quite a majority of the work. If it's not on that camera, then it's probably a rental camera like a Red V Raptor or maybe an Alexa for some of the higher end jobs that have a little bit more budget. But for the sort of small to mid-tier budgets, projects that I'm working on, the C300 really has been great. It has ticked all the boxes, but I was starting to look for the next thing. As we kind of put this together, I can talk a little bit about what those things were in terms of what was on the bucket list and ultimately why I decided on this camera. All right, let's get this open. All right, so underneath here, we've got the camera. So it's a box style camera, which is great, quite compact, definitely smaller than my C300 Mark III is. So that's it for this main box. All right, so that's the camera. Really tiny. I decided to get the L mount version. So this camera does come in locking EF mount, PL, and L mount. So L mount is going to be the most flexible mount because it's a short flange. You can adapt this to a lot of different other mounts, including EF and PL. So for me, that made a lot of sense, and actually was one of the things that was on my bucket list of things that I was looking for when I was going to be upgrading or thinking about upgrading from my C300. All right, so that's that. So all this other stuff that's surrounding the surface here is a bunch of cheese plates and accessories. I decided to go with Mid49 as my brand of choice for this particular camera. My previous camera, the C300, I was using Bright Tangerine. I think both companies are great. I really love the Bright Tangerine stuff with my C300, and I considered getting similar stuff for this camera, this Pyxis, but kind of when I looked at A and B, the Mid49 just had a couple of more benefits and a little bit of cost savings as well. Just it was slightly cheaper than the Bright Tangerine stuff, so that's kind of why I went with it. But ultimately, I think both companies are great. A couple components we have here. We have the top plate. So this is just a standard top plate, which I've already put these 15 millimeter rod bracket on the top here, so we can put a focus motor for all my assistants. The base here is just a base plate here, which is a sort of two-fold base plate. So there's a plate here that is Arca Swiss and I believe DJI Ronin compatible, and then on the bottom you just have standard ARRI dovetail standard. So that'll go to any ARRI dovetail. And then what I put on here already, which I should take off, is the lens adapter. So this is a DZO L to EF adapter, their Octoplus adapter. So I have a set of DZO Vespid primes, which are an EF mount, So that's kind of why I've got this adapter for now, but I will be looking to probably get a PL adapter at some point as well. Just want to take these rods out first. What's nice about this base plate too is that you can lock the EF mount in there, or the lens adapter in there for support, because these lens adapters with these short flange mounts can sometimes, there's a bit of play, a bit of wiggle in there. Okay, so first off is we'll take this smaller base plate off, this Arcus Twist type base plate off. And I guess we'll attach that to the camera first. So the camera's got a bunch of holes here, 3/8 and 1/4 20, as well as 3/8 and 1/4 20 on the top. So we'll put this first here on the bottom. So we'll put, we might as well do 2 3/8 just because we can. Okay, so we'll put that here. Yeah, so actually what I should do is put this adapter on first. So it's, all right. Ooh, so that's the sensor there. So this is a full frame sensor, 12K full frame sensor, which was another thing that was on my bucket list, because the C300 is a Super 35 camera, and Super 35 is great. I mean, it's kind of the sensor format that I really learned on to some degree, coming from the film days. Even everything was Super 35. Digital full frame really came after sort of I got my start. So I was always used to sort of thinking about lensing and field of view in Super 35. But one of the reasons I wanted to go full frame is that so much of what I do now is vertical 9:16 capture. And in order to get that 9:16, often you have to back the camera out much further than you would otherwise have to if you were just capturing 16:9. And by backing the camera up more and more and more, the depth of field continues to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So oftentimes I was in situations where we had to pull the camera back to get the 9:16 frame, but then the depth of field was not as shallow as I would have liked. Oftentimes, trying to just use depth of field as a tool to hide certain things, and throw things out of focus, which I wasn't able to do with the C300. Already the depth of field is a little bit deeper than full frame. The other thing that is really useful with this camera is that it is a open gate sensor, or 3x2 sensor, so you can shoot open gate. Which is also another thing that was on my bucket list. So the combination of full frame as well as having 3x2 open gate really helps, I think, being able to capture that 9:16 at the same time as capturing your 16:9. All right, so we got the lens mount attached there. So what we now want to do is figure out what lens support I want to put in here. This is probably a little too short, so maybe we'll go to the next one. So Mid 49 gives you a bunch of these support sticks. And this does stick out a little bit here, but let's see if that messes me up anywhere else. Hopefully it doesn't. All right, so we got the base plate on there with the lens support on there. Okay, so next we can then attach this into this airy style plate. So this can either slide in, or I think this can actually drop in as well. Tighten up the thumb screw. Great. Cool. All right, so that's the base plate done. So now we'll put the top plate on. A bunch of 1/4 20s on the back of this, and then that lines up with the top of the body here, the camera body. So I'll just drop that on. These are bigger. Maybe we'll just use these supplied Allen keys. So, like I said, I had a bunch of sort of bucket list items that I wanted to, that I was thinking about if I was ever going to upgrade my camera, because I think it, you know, doesn't make sense to make a linear move. I think if you're going to upgrade a camera, there are reasons why you upgraded from one, you're going to upgrade from one to another. Similarly, how I upgraded from my FS7 to a C300, there were a bunch of items and things I wanted to accomplish when I upgraded to that camera. So moving away from that camera to whatever the next camera was going to be, a couple of things that were off top of list were resolution was one of them. So the C300 tops out at 4K. It's 4K capture. A lot of the work that I do, there's so much considerations in terms of reframing. I do a lot of product and tabletop work, and a lot of that stuff, you need to get lots of different crops out of it, as well as sort of reframing and resizing things. And so I wanted to be able to have a camera that, delivered more than 4K capture, which is often why I would shoot on the Red V Raptor, because it had 8K capture. So this camera is 12K. I can actually capture up to 12K. I don't know how often I will shoot the 12K mode. I think the sweet spot on this camera is going to be the 8K mode. So this camera will do 12K B-RAW, Blackmagic RAW, their own flavor of RAW, as well as 8K. And then what's nice is that also will shoot 4K. And what's really nice about it is that you can shoot all those modes without cropping in on the sensor. So unlike a Red, where you change the resolution, you're cropping in on the sensor tighter and tighter, tighter. With this camera, you can maintain the full field of view of the sensor in full 3x2 open gate in all the modes. So definitely more resolution was a big thing. I was looking for a minimum of 6K, and there's a couple cameras now that sort of tick that box, including the C400 from Canon as well, which was something that I was thinking about for a brief second. But I think the sensor in this camera, as well as having 8K and 12K, pushed me in the direction of Blackmagic. So we got the top plate on here, and then there's a slot here for the top handle. So this can slide right in like this. So we've got that now. So that's the top plate and the base plate on there. Oh, this will lock. It's nice everything's has kip handles on all this. It's so annoying when manufacturers don't put kip handles on all their lock-offs. So that's nice and secure. All right, next I think we'll put on the side plate. The camera natively just has 2 quarter-20s and a 3/8 here, but I'm going to be replacing it with this guy. So this is the mid 49 side plate. So I believe you know what? I can't remember if this goes on top just like this, or I have to actually take this plate off. I think I have to take Blackmagic's one off first, I believe, and then this one replaces it. I don't think I'm supposed to leave this one on here. So I'll just take this off. And then, like I said before already, the flexible lens mount was another thing on my bucket list, because the C300 is natively only EF mount. They do make a PL adapter that you can unbolt the front part of the lens mount on the Canon, on the C300, and take it off and put a PL mount on. But I didn't want to really put any more money into that camera, knowing that I was going to change it out. There's a lot of instances where you want to just try a different set of lenses out. There's so much PL glass out there that's available at a rental house. You can sort of try, and not having that option sometimes wasn't a deal breaker, but there were certainly times where, yeah, I thought, oh, it'd be kind of cool to try this lens or try that lens or shoot anamorphic or try different things out. But not having a flexible lens mount on my C300 was sometimes a little frustrating. So now with this L mount, I can sort of adapt it to EF for some of the glass that I own already, but it'll be an easy swap to put it to PL if I want to consider any PL glass for a project. And just having that flexibility is kind of huge. All right, so I got this side plate off here. Now I think this just will bolt on like this. Yeah, it feels pretty good. They do also make, Mid-49 also does make an XLR breakout adapter for this. I decided not to get that for now. I think I'm not going to be recording audio on this camera that often. I don't really do a lot of jobs that have audio, frankly. Most of the jobs I'm shooting is MOS. There is a mini XLR in the front here, which I might just get an adapter cable. And honestly, in most cases, I'm working with a sound person who they come with cables, so they'll be able to adapt that no problem. All right, so we got that side plate on there. That looks great. Awesome. It's coming together. Looks kind of like it's trying to feel like a real camera. Okay, next up we have this guy. So this is the DB9 power distribution box, which is built for this camera. It's definitely on the more expensive end in terms of V-mount adapters. So this will adapt, this will allow me to power the camera on V-mount because I already own a bunch of V-mount batteries. And on top of that, it also gives you power distribution. So it gives you 2 D-tap outs at battery voltage. You also get 2 2-pin LEMOs at battery voltage, and you get 2 3-pin Fishers at 24 volts. But what's also nice about this plate is that it will accept airy run stop through one of the 3-pin Fishers. So yeah, a little expensive, but I think it's well built. It's also got a bunch of sort of surge protection and power management in it as well. So you know what? Buy once, cry once. So this camera will hopefully be part of the package for at least the next couple of years. If I think most of my cameras I've gotten at least 5 years out of before sort of the next thing kind of made sense. So you spend the money and get the tool that makes sense. All right, so this guy attaches kind of via a bracket here, which fits on the body here. So we'll just get that attached. Should move this handle out of the way. Let's just take this off for a second. And then continuing on down the bucket list of things that I was thinking about when upgrading a camera. So we talked about resolution, we talked about open gate, we talked about full frame, we talked about a flexible lens mount. The next thing was going to be a higher bitrate codec. So the C300, when I bought it, only had a 10-bit XAVC codec built into it, which is actually what I've shot most things on. That's the format I've sort of gone with. After I got the camera, actually, you know what? Sorry. When I bought the camera, it did come with, there was a RAW mode. There was a 12-bit Canon RAW mode in it. I actually never shot, or I shot the mode, I think, once. It was not a very compressed codec. It was very, I think it was like 2.1 gigabits, or I think the C500 was 2.1 gigabits a second for their 6K variant. I think the C300 was a little bit smaller in file size, but it was still pretty big. I think it was still like, I want to say a gigabit a second for the RAW mode, which is pretty big file sizes for 4K RAW especially. So I never really shot that mode. Just the XAVC always kind of looked great and was good on file size, and was fine for everything that I was doing with it. But I wanted something. Thinking ahead, thinking what's next. I wanted something that was 12-bit, and Canon did eventually release some firmware that added compressed Canon RAW into the C300. I still didn't really shoot that mode ever, so I wanted something that was a little bit maybe more manageable in terms, and had some more flavors of sort of compression. And so this camera, the Pyxis, has got 12-bit RAW. Blackmagic RAW has a multitude of different compression ratios. You can either do constant quality, or you can do like a compression ratio similar to what Red does. Either like 3:1, 4:1, 8:1, depending on what flavor you want. And again, is RAW as well. So RAW was not necessarily something I was looking for, but like the bit depth was more important to me, but being raw as well and being a little more flexible, I think is is a great option to have. So that was also something that was on that bucket list. All right, so we got this attached. So this guy basically just plugs in here. So there's a two-pin LEMO for power on the camera body. And then this guy will just clip on like this. And then basically this is swiveling. So this can sort of swivel out of the way. Let me do it this way. So this is like can either swing up, and then this camera will power with Sony BPU style batteries. So you can put a Sony BPU in here if you want to like hot swap, or you can put a battery in there. I don't have any at the moment, so I'll just be doing that. But it does like swing out of the way. It also kind of it does sort of block the SDI ports a little bit here. So in order to get your SDI in there, you kind of maybe have to swivel this out of the way to get access to your SDIs. So it's nice to do that. And then what's nice about it too is that if you need to convert this camera, like gotta put on a gimbal or something, just a fast way to take this battery plate off. It's not like bolted in. All right, so that's the battery plate. The top handle back in. There's a little USB here that I have to put on, that I have to attach this battery plate to the camera body, which allows the run stop to work, but we won't worry too much about that for now. Oh, and one thing I didn't open yet, maybe we'll look at that first or next, is the monitor. So Blackmagic has their own 5-inch monitor, which apparently is half decent in terms of quality, but what's kind of a big selling point about it is that it gives you camera control. Because the camera does have a screen on it, but it's on the side, so that's kind of useless in terms of operating. It's really more about I really think of it more like a menu screen. And then we've got the screen itself. All right, so we'll peel this off. So this has kind of a built-in sunshade, which is kind of fun. It's not the brightest screen. I can't remember what the nit count is, but it's not, I don't think it's daylight viewable. And then I believe this just clips off. There's a bunch of tabs here. Just pop that off for now. Yeah. What's also nice about this is that it's a single cable that carries power and data. So I bought the kit that doesn't come with any of the bracketry. I think this monitor comes with like 3 different kits, like a base kit, like a mid kit that comes with like a bracket or something or 2, and then the advanced kit's got like a EVF style bracket. But I've got so much like bits and bobs and rigging bits that I've just bought over the years. I just didn't make sense to buy more rigging stuff that I can probably figure out with what I have already. I think we'll see. So the downside with the base kit is that they don't really tell you that really clearly, but it doesn't come with any cables, so you have to buy the cables extra. These are basically just USB-C cables, or Thunderbolt cables rather. I think I don't think you can actually, I think it's Thunderbolt cables will actually work. USB-C I think won't transmit the video signal, but either way I got the sanctioned OEM cables, because what's nice about these is they've got a little lock on them, so you can kind of lock everything to the monitor and then to the camera body. So I've got this little small rig mount. This is just a this is not what I'm going to probably use. I'll probably try to get something a little bit nicer, but for now, just so we can mount it, we'll do that. And then there are a bunch of, there's kind of like 1/4 20 on the bottom here. And then there's like these locking pins, which is unfortunately, I don't think ARRI locking standard, which is annoying. So I'll have to figure that out. But that will work for now. There's a bit of a thumb screw, which you can kind of tighten this in. Mid 49 does make these little 3D printed knob things that you can sort of force fit over these guys just to make this a little easier to connect, and it's good enough for now. Okay, let's power on up. So got a V-mount here. And it's connected, should be fine. Ooh, back heavy. Let me also also go grab a lens as well. So it's a locking style EF mount. Kind of works like a PL lens. All right, it's a little more balanced. Okay, so power switches in the back here. So a couple things maybe we should talk about is what did I give up moving from my C300 to this camera. The most obvious one is built-in NDs. So that's something that I'm going to miss a little bit. Built-in ND filters are just exceptionally useful, very convenient, and just sort of speeds up the work process. So that, unfortunately, I had to give up. There are PL to L mount adapters that have ND filters built into them. So that might be something that I will look into, but otherwise I'm going to have to now use external NDs. I generally always have a camera assistant. I'm rarely working alone, so not a huge deal breaker, but obviously built-in NDs would be nice. The second one is autofocus. There's no autofocus available in this camera versus my C300. But to be honest, I actually haven't used autofocus that much on my C300. When I upgraded from my FS7, autofocus was one of the things on my bucket list. I wanted something that had a modern day autofocus system. But in honesty, I really haven't used it much at all. I'm always working with a focus puller, rarely working by myself. So having an autofocus system is certainly convenient for things like this, but in my professional work life, not something that I have really relied on. So not having it in this camera is not a deal breaker at all. And then I would say the last thing is maybe a bit of I/O. The C300 has 2 SDIs, an HDMI in, 2 full-size XLR ports, a robust, sound recording option in it, which this camera does not. You only have the one 12G SDI, and again, only one balanced mini XLR in. So kind of a reduction of I/O. But it's no different than a Komodo or something like that, which I have sort of been using as well when I've needed a little bit more resolution, but didn't have the budget for a V-Raptor. The Komodo X has sort of been the go-to camera. So certainly this camera fits in that same kind of ecosystem, that same kind of workflow. Yeah, and then other than that, that's really the only thing. I think everything else I've gained in terms of the resolution, 3x2 open gate, the full frame, the flexible lens mount, and a pretty robust codec. I guess I did also lose the XF AVC compressed codec. So for any clients where I need to turn around something much quicker or data sizes of more importance, although this camera in 4K mode, highest compression ratio is actually not too dissimilar than what the XAVC codec is on the C300. It's a little bit bigger, but not by much. So I think in the instance where I need to just keep the data size down, I'll probably just shoot the 4K mode on this camera. The data size should be fairly manageable. It is still a raw codec, so that you still need to kind of post-process it versus the XAVC codec, which you can kind of ingest right away into any editing system and start working right away. So there's a little bit of that trade-off and downside, but yeah, other than that, I'm looking forward to putting this through the paces, and hopefully I have a little bit more to share with you guys shortly. All right, see you soon.